I'm your host, Sheldon Bro, a fisherman's son turned banker, turned mortgage pro, turned fintech founder. Finance Village is a podcast that caters to both financial professionals and consumers, featuring conversations that challenge and engage experts right across the industry. And our show's ultimate goal is to enhance the financial literacy of consumers while providing financial professionals with the best resources to serve their clients effectively. It takes a village of experts to ensure the best care for our clients, and Finance Village is here to help build that village. This is brought to you by Castflex Media, a podcast production company. And if you want to start or have a podcast that you want to make better, Castflex has the flex you need to make it easy and awesome. All right. Hi, everyone. Sheldon Bro here with another episode of Finance Village. This episode will be an addition of many to come of fresh, young opinions on finance and financial advice. The purpose of these sessions will be reoccurring and is to discuss some of the concepts that someone younger get their blunt, honest opinions of the same things we're trying to discuss with adults in finance and see what their fresh young minds are thinking about in regards to finance these days and new ideas that they have in regards to that. So in this episode, we have two awesome guests. Stacy Brooks is back, a longtime executive in the financial advisory space with big players in the game, now out on her own with Capital Markets Advisors, who is a boutique professional services firm with global reach and staffed by seasoned professionals, bringing decades of experience and gained by working for banks and around the world in senior roles. So any wealth managers, portfolio managers, financial advisors, associate advisors, financial planners, both in the corporate and in the independent or captive side, she's an amazing strategic advisor for optimizing how you spend your working years by showing you simply what opportunities are out there that you may not know about. So if you would like to learn more or have an exploratory conversation, we got Stacy's information is going to be posted below here, or you can check her out on LinkedIn as well and shoot her a direct message. Next, we have Nolan, a grade 7 student in Edmonton, Alberta, who loves playing hockey and baseball. In his spare time, he also has a YouTube channel where he makes fun and informative videos, tons of random but interesting topics. They're happy. Definitely go ahead and watch one video and tell me you don't want to watch a second video of his. Noah, good job. Please teach me your skills. Thank you for coming on to give your honest opinions on the mysterious subject of financial advice. Now, let's get into it, Nolan. Where do you learn about finance, and where do you think most people learn about money?
A small bit at school, but I don't think enough. And then usually my dad teaches me most of the stuff that I know.
And how long have you been talking to your dad about it that you can remember for so you're in grade 7 now. That makes you how old? Sorry.
I'm 12 right now.
12. So how many years have you been talking in any way that's really about finance or money in a meaningful way?
Probably around 2.
Last 2 years?
Yeah.
And what do you think that it means to be financially savvy?
Well, it means that you're you have enough money that you can survive and you're not struggling to get by.
Okay, so well, nowadays that's a very accurate answer because I would say that, there's a stat that a third of people making $250,000 a year. Do you think that's a lot of money, Nolan?
Yeah.
A third of people making that much money are living paycheck to paycheck. So you learned a little bit from your school, a little bit from your parents. That's a little different than mine. I learned all of mine from my parents. They didn't have any in school in my day, but I was in a small village where we basically just had like math, English, and gym. What about you, Stacy? Did you guys have any of that in your big fancy city?
Well, I'd have to say in high school, in high school, they did offer business math. So I was not necessarily a technical math person, and I refused to fail math. So I switched to business math. And that was probably my first kind of formal introduction to amortization, just interest, all of that stuff that is more business math related. And you learned a lot more from that. And that says, oh, that's far more interesting than, algebra or physics or, anything like that. So for me, it was actually grade 11 math where it was first introduced with a business math course.
You guys had business math. What city was that in, or what?
So that was actually, it was in Brampton, Ontario. So
okay, Brampton.
They still offered it, and I had a great teacher, Dr. Pam Bukian.
Okay, shout out to that teacher. Shout out to Fancy Brampton. Nolan, what kind of stuff do you see them teaching you in school? How are they teaching you in school these days? From what you see, what's the experience look like?
I'm liking it. The teachers are all really good. They're getting through the courses and getting the material to us so that we're able to learn. I feel like half the stuff we learn is not important, but it's learning it and learning how to learn that is actually what you're going to take away, go into university and learn from.
And do they give you like kind of real life example scenarios that you can navigate? Are they using like digital things, or how are they interacting with teaching it to you?
Yeah, so they're using like lots of real life. They're also getting us to do like online worksheets and like essays and stuff that gets us interacted with the lessons and stuff.
And you think that there's still some opportunities for some improvement in the schools? I mean, clearly having the business math, I think, was a good stepping stone, being able to start your own business. Personal finances is separate from, of course, that business math. How do you decide, Nolan, what you're going to spend money on when you decide you want to spend some money? Do you just fling it in every direction? Do you sit down and go through a process?
Usually I'll have money and then I'll put some into my bank account, and then with the ones that I do like to spend, I'll go on to websites, look what I want to get, and then make my final decision there before going to get it.
So it's all online shopping now. You're not going out to the malls anymore. You got to check the reviews. You want to see what's going on. You get the package delivered to your door like the rest of us, is it?
Yeah, I mean, like I sometimes get packages, sometimes go out. So there's a balance of both.
And how do you, in your experience in the financial industry, Stacy, how do you typically see people making their decisions? Or are they sitting down and make any decision? I read in a book once, like people, counting to 5 in their head first to decide if they want to do this. There's different rules you can hear. Nolan, I don't know if you've ever heard, if you can't buy it 4 times or 10 times or something, then don't buy it. What's some of the things? I mean, you've seen a lot of things in the financial advisory space as far as the psychology around finance. How do you see people usually making the decisions to spend their money, Stacy?
I find a lot of adults still make emotional buy-in decisions, mostly on the smaller things. The bigger things require a little bit more thought and more planning for it. So when it comes to bigger buying decisions in terms of, a car or a house or a boat, there's probably a lot more, some more thought that goes into how that's going to be financed or paid for over time. Some of it is still an emotional decision, but it still needs to make sense for their family because they need to have this, be able to afford the monthly commitment to this cost. When it comes to smaller things, I still think people are just emotional buyers, or they have a kind of a herd mentality, my friend has it, or like air fryer is a great example of an emotional purchase, right? One friend has it, says it's the best thing in the world. I'm an example of that. I tell it to 10 friends, and now I'll tell 10 friends I have an air fryer and they can't live without it. So, there's a bit of an emotional attachment to the purchase or the buy or the want or the need. And then, of course, there's the herd mentality that, everyone else around me has it, so why shouldn't I have it? And then you have a group of folks that are more thoughtful. They may sit down with their financial advisor to say, hey, we're looking to do this over the next couple of years. How do we plan for that? And if the financial advisor may not cover cash and debt management as part of their overall planning, it may be they're just making buying decisions on their own, racking up debt. And then 5 years from now, they are like, we're knee deep in debt. And then they're trying to figure out how to get out of it. So if there's a lot more thoughtfulness or intentional in their buying decisions, you'll see that there's less Canadians that are in debt. And this is different from folks who may get into debt due to circumstances that are completely outside of their control.
Yeah, 100%. So, Nolan, How do you interpret what she's talking about as far as like emotional purchases? As you get older, you're going to have to manage more and more money and be responsible for that. And as you're responsible for more money, you're usually become responsible for more people. What do you think are some examples? Can you think of some examples of emotional? For me, it's like it's food. It's like I don't even know if that can qualify as emotional, but that's like where like. Yeah, I guess like when you're busy or you're stressed, it's just food for me cures everything, makes me happy. Go get some little snack and I feel great. But what do you think? What do you interpret as Stacy's, what she said about emotional spending, Nolan? And what do you think some of those examples are in people your age?
Well, some of the examples would definitely be like decorations they have for their room or whatever they want to get, or also food, or again, yeah.
Food is one that makes me, I mean, it's a dangerous one for me. It's a dangerous one. I could sit there. If I liked ice cream, I could be one of those people that sits there with a bucket of ice cream. But for me, it's more like Ethiopian food. So there's lots of complicated psychology and feelings, as we just discussed, Nolan and Stacy, around finance. Do you think that it's something that people should keep to themselves, Nolan? Do you think that they should find other adults to have conversations about with it so they can kind of share ideas about, how to best navigate things? How do you feel about, people talking more about money openly, not necessarily revealing all their personal details, but just talking about it in generally in more settings than we're doing these days?
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's good for people to know like what's going on, but definitely like not to reveal like how much you make, what you're spending on, or like all that personal stuff.
Now, is there a situation where, so I agree with you as far as in general with, friends and stuff, which is what I was referring to. Now let's take it a little bit layer deeper. You're familiar with, probably you've heard about ChatGPT and all the AI stuff that's going on, right? You're on the internet, you see that stuff, people are talking about it. And there's a lot of do-it-yourself or kind of robo advice, what they refer to today as robo advice, which means you're really just engaging with technology to manage your finances, your investments, your spending, and different things. Do you think that the future holds a place for the human interaction of financial advice to continue, or people are just going to start to use technology? Are you someone that would want to be able to have a conversation with a real human when you're making bigger money decisions as you continue to manage more money in your life?
Well, I feel like it's a better thing to talk with another person because they've got feelings. They kind of think more like a person rather than just going to AI, which is probably not the best thing to do because AI is this just script, look off the internet, and it doesn't have that like human emotion to it.
But you think there could be still a place for AI, but there's just always going to be that important place to make it feel like I'm talking to somebody that can understand the nuances of being a human and all the things I'm feeling while I'm trying to navigate these decisions. Because it's not just math, it's life decisions, what we spend these things, what we save money, or if we buy some insurances. Stacy, how long do you think the financial advisors have left before AI takes over? Is it always, are they always going to have a place? Are we always going to want to, is it the AI just going to continue to consolidate and make data better so they can give better advice, or is it going to blockbuster them at some point?
I believe there will always be a place for financial advisors. And to echo what Nolan says, is that while AI can augment data and help, narrow it down to some key decisions that need to be made based on the data that's provided, it takes human to human to really understand the emotional connection on how you're going to implement or apply the knowledge to that data. What does it really mean to the person? So I don't think advisors will ever be outsourced or be out of business as a result of AI. Now, depending on the type of advisor you are, you may lose a place in the space in terms of what value you bring to the table. But for individuals that work with families or business owners that are really looking to understand their taxations, their philanthropy, the people and the things that are most important to them, AI will just help them analyze the information a lot better, maybe highlight key things to bring into the conversation. But I think it should be used as a tool to help advisors do what they do even better, where they're doing less time number crunching and doing more having more time to have real conversations about the data and the information with their clients.
Yeah, and use the term, I forget where I heard it, so whoever I heard it from, I would like to give you credit, but I can't remember who you are, a bionic advisor. It's more like an advisor that brings that human conversation that is super powered by a whole bunch of cool technologies that they can use to season what they're able to offer.
And I think also too that, you know, humans are selective in what they share. So if we are able to use technology to bring a greater, to kind of source data more collectively, you know, advisors are in a better position to provide real and more accurate advice or recommendations in the planning process. So as opposed to just going by what somebody says, if we're really able to use data through whatever source of AI intelligence that we're able to bring together, the quality of the advice that advisors deliver will be far more exceptional than probably what they're getting today, like, you know, cherry picking information.
Totally. And if you can believe it, Nolan, there's still a lot of people when they go to fill out applications for a credit card or apply for a mortgage, they have to fill out a lot of manual paperwork. So think about the things that we know ChatGPT can do. And then when somebody wants to go apply for a mortgage, they're still filling out these old school type of forms that they're printing off, or this clunky looking web form. And then the effort required to gather all of your personal and employment information from all these different places, from all these different entities like Canada Revenue, it feels like a lot for people. How do you think that financial advisors currently get paid? Do you have any idea, Nolan?
With the government, probably.
You think the government pays them?
Yeah.
So there's people that work in the banks, which usually they make a salary, and there's a lot of people that are independently employed. So they just get to set up their own kind of shop of financial advisory. I'm going to have Stacy explain the different ways that advisors get paid, and then I want your opinions on how that works. If you you have any questions about them, if you think that one is maybe undesirable. Go ahead, Stacy.
So you would think they get paid by the government the way that they offer.
That's a great idea, though. Let's give that some respect right there. That's a fantastic idea. And if they cared right, they would be setting things up like that.
It's, you know, create more neutrality. But in all fairness, you know, the value of advice is paid in different ways. So there's financial advisors, as Sheldon says, that are employed by the big banks or certain firms where they get a salary. And if they hit certain quotas by the end of the year, they may get a bonus. So that's just a regular salaried employee. What we do have in Canada is a lot of independent financial advisors that are self-employed and they work for themselves. So after getting the licenses, designations, and everything to set up a business, they then sell solutions or products to individuals. How they get paid is that upon the sale of a product that's put in place for a client, the manufacturer of that business, whether it's insurance or mutual fund, then pays the advisor a percentage of that annual cost of that business. And that's how they get paid. So it's very commission based. So if they don't do a good job to acquire a client and settle a piece of business, they don't get paid. So if they had 10 conversations with a client, there is no compensation for that. So they only get paid on the business that's placed, and that client, that individual becomes a client of theirs, they get paid. And that's insurance. So that's a bit of upfront. So if they sold a life insurance policy and the policy was a total cost of $1,200 for the year, they would get paid, 20% of that total cost, which will bring it to like $240. And then they'll get a little bit of a bonus on top of that could double that in total compensation. For funds, then they would get paid a percentage of the overall deposit. So it's a more commission based on effort versus salary based.
So let's talk about that for a second. So basically, Nolan, you think about in the utopian view that you were probably painting with the government one, that would be an awesome way to have things, is have that funded. People could get free advice. it's not, the government doesn't do it. One of the ways you can get paid is by commission. You know how commission works?
Yeah.
So they're there to give you advice, and you can ask financial advisors a lot of questions. There's different licenses they may have, investments, insurance. Ultimately, what their goal is to give you financial guidance, but it's also to give you financial products. And when you take one of the products because they have convinced you that it's good, they get some commission for that. How do you feel about that one? Are you okay with that? Do you think that's a good model? Do you have any questions about it?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're doing your own business, so there's risks with that. But then if your business does perform really well or you do really well, you can make more or less depending on how you do that year.
And they're selling you something. So do you feel weird that somebody's selling you a financial product and they're making a commission like a pair of shoes? Or do you feel like as long as I trust this person's competence and as long as I trust their heart, I'm okay with them making a commission as long as I feel comfortable with them trust-wise?
Well, yeah, I think it's a thing of trust. Like you want to be trusting, but it's also it's a product you want. Like you don't need to buy it if you don't want to buy it. And they're convincing you to buy it if you want to buy it, not because you need to get this.
Yes, and it is their responsibility to educate you to an extent. So that's one method. Give us another method, Stacy.
Those are really the main methods, right? So it's either it's predominantly commission based or salary based, or you may split commissions with another advisor. So I may do insurance only. And then Nolan, you may also be an advisor and you do investments only. And, we may share the overall solution for the client. So either way, it's still commission based for a financial advisor. It's one of the two. You're either salaried with the bank as an employee, or you are an independent advisor and you're getting paid based on commission. And how you get compensated for insurance is a little bit different than how you get compensated for investment products.
So those are by far the two main ones, Nolan. There are starting to be a lot of people now charging an hourly rate. That hourly rate can be $100, $200, $3 an hour. It's called fee-based. And you're basically just paying for their time. They won't sell you any products. They want you to go get that product somewhere else. They just want to give you what's referred to as unbiased advice. So they don't want to feel like they're selling you anything. They just want you to pay for their time. The issue with that sometimes, in my opinion, is it's hard to convince people. On average, I think it's at least $150 per hour to talk to someone about financial advice. So how does that one make you feel as far as an hourly rate? Is that just something where you're like, well, that's the cost of service like a lawyer? Yeah, they're expensive, but I have to pay it. Or does it make you think that you don't want the advice? How do you feel about the hourly rate, Nolan?
Finance Village is sponsored by Pocket Finance, a technology platform on mobile app and web that improves collaboration and engagement between financial professionals, their clients, and their professional ecosystem. You can check it out at pocketfinance.com, and there is early adopter benefits on the go. And we are also brought to you by FinSense, a digital mortgage company serving all of Canada and ensuring that you get the same trustworthy mortgage advice that you would want your dear mother to get.
Well, I mean, for some people, they won't want it because they don't want to pay that. But then again, it's the hourly rate. You can get as much advice as you want in that period of time you've paid. And if you have the money to do it, I feel like it's good because they're not selling you anything. It's unbiased and it's their opinion, and that they're just telling you what they think you should do. And then you can also mix that with your opinion.
Yeah, and you can understand how, like, for some people, maybe they can afford it, but it feels like a lot, right? When you hear $150 an hour, like there's not a, it's a pretty high hourly rate. So you think to yourself, oh, it's kind of scary, but it should, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stacy, it should be giving you a yield, because they're giving you a strategy about places you can put your money to pay less tax. I don't know how much you know about tax, Nolan, but you probably at least know that you don't want to pay any more of it than you have to, right? You don't want to just like start giving donations to your government and different things like that. So that hourly rate should give you a big return in a lot of different ways, where you're getting a lot more back. But again, it can be scary, because doing that long math is not like the first thing people think of. They just think of, oh man, $150 an hour, that's a lot. What are your thoughts on this, Stacy?
There's a lot more advisors that are going to the fee-based structure, because it allows them to provide a greater level of time and attention to the clients that they're serving. And for that fee base, it could be based on a percentage of the overall book of business or the overall assets under administration that the fees charged on. Or it could be just, I'm going to give you a plan. Here's the cost for me to prepare the plan, and you can go buy the products elsewhere, or everything could be done in-house. I do believe that, it is a great strategy for advisors who choose to employ that methodology for compensation. It allows them to streamline their services to be more tailored to the needs of their client, and different clients may pay different fees based on the level of service that they require. So a more high net worth or ultra high net worth client may require far more resources and information and detail. So they may prefer a more exclusive type of engagement with that advisor, as opposed to an advisor who serves a larger, more general client base and may not be able to give them that level of time. So it certainly serves advisors who have specific clientele that require more complex strategies or recommendations or advice or services. And, it allows for that exclusivity. And if that works for you as a client, I think it's good. You know exactly what you're getting for the price that you're paying.
Yeah, that's a great point too, Nolan, is the more you have going on, like if you're just going to college or university and you just got your first credit card, it's probably not a huge need to go out and pay somebody $150 an hour for financial advice. But maybe as you start to buy 2 or 3 houses, and maybe now you've started a business and there's more things going on, then you want to be able to figure those out with more advice and more different kinds of advice. So the other one I want to mention, because it's not very popular yet, I think it's starting to catch on. I've seen little businesses do it. I've seen big fancy firms do it. Is subscription. You see a lot of subscriptions nowadays, right, Nolan? There's all kinds of different, Spotify and Netflix and a million other subscriptions. Everything's on subscription, it seems, these days. And we kind of already have that in the lawyer space, right, Stacy, with retainers or monthly retainers that you pay. You can reach out to them anytime to ask them for advice, Nolan, as long as you don't, call them every single day and drive them nuts. You just kind of pay a monthly subscription. That might be small for somebody that only needs a little advice, like $35 a month. There might be other people that maybe you're paying $500 a month for that advice. But do you feel like subscriptions is a nifty thing to have in financial advice? It's one that's interesting that you might consider engaging?
Yeah, well, it's definitely interesting, because if you do go this month without getting any financial advice, you're still paying that subscription. But if you do this month where you need more or you ask for more, you're paying this but getting maybe more value out of it. But yeah, it's interesting.
And what do you think are some common mistakes that people make in regards to finance? Do you, whether you see it in the news or you see it just generally in public, things that you hear, or just things that you witness people do, what are some things that you think that maybe some mistakes or silly things that people do with their money?
Buying things they don't need is a big one. Lots of subscriptions, if you don't need it, don't get it. And also, if you have a subscription, I've seen lots of people forget to cancel it, and then they're paying $30 a month for an extra 4 months, or they're paying extra fees on shipping when you could just wait. Lots of things that you could easily avoid.
Yeah, we're definitely, it's addictive getting packages to your house and shopping and everything else. I think one of the big mistakes we can make is spending it on things that we don't need. I always try to pretend like I'm going to become a minimalist, because every time I move from an apartment to apartment, I get rid of most of my stuff, and I go and I'm going to try to not get much stuff again and just keep basic stuff inside. Do you think that, so when you say stuff that people don't need, do you think that if you had to choose a percentage, Nolan, out of the things that people have, out of 100%, what percent do you think people don't need of the stuff that we bought? So the 100% of the stuff we bought, do you think we didn't need to buy 10% of it that was waste, 5%, 30%? How much do you think people are over consuming and just spending because they want some new stuff?
Probably a good half of people's money goes on to stuff they don't need, or more that they just want by heart.
Wow, I did not expect a number that big, and it almost makes it feel like you're very aware of like society and financially savvy. Because yeah, I was hoping you'd say something more than 15%, but I didn't think you would. Stacy, how do you feel about his answer?
I think Nolan is a very smart young man because he's right. I think as an adult, and I just think about the stuff that I have in my house, I could probably go without 70% of it in terms of what I need. But there's stuff that I want because I want this, this decor in my house, or this painting, or this or this that type of thing, right? I think one of the greatest luxuries that we spend money on, if you think about it, is just a phone. Oh, the phone does this, and this, and all we want the phone to do is ring. Now it's in the palm of our hand. We use it more as a mobile computer, but for the most part, half the features and benefits that are built into these phones, we don't use. A second one where we upgrade on luxury and we don't use the functionalities are cars, right? So cars has all these fancy features and benefits, and we probably use 10% of what we paid for. And I think, and again, it's back to the emotional.
So many buttons in our car that I don't have any clue what they do.
Right. And it's back to the emotional side of the money spending decision making, right? And I think a significant one is when it just comes to the markets, right? We have the news coming at us to say, oh, the markets are crashing, and people panic and don't realize that a lot of the times though, when they're investing in the markets, or it's a long-term investing, so it doesn't matter what the markets are doing today. If you're working with a financial advisor or planner and they've put a plan together for you, you guys put goals in place, and as long as your portfolio is performing towards that said goal, then it doesn't matter if oil is $10 today and $50 tomorrow, as long as you're on staying the course. So when you just think about how people panic and they buy high and sell low, that's a significant impact to overall wealth. But when it just comes to just buying stuff, it just buy stuff. Oh, it's only $5, but did you really need another $5 sweater because it was 90 and now you got it at $5 and you have 10 of them in your closet already?
Yeah, and I made that habit. That's one thing, Nolan, I'll warn you, is as you start to make more money, you feel like you want to spend more money, even though it doesn't make sense. Just because you're making more doesn't mean you can spend more. I remember my whole life I had 2 pairs of shoes, sneakers and dress shoes. And then I started making more money when I moved to the big city in Toronto, and I bought up to 30 pairs of shoes, and most of them I wasn't even wearing. I don't even know that I was buying very stylish shoes. A lot of them probably looked kind of funny or bad choices. Speaking of financial goals, if you don't mind us asking, Nolan, what would you say is one of the financial goals that you have in mind right now? Or you want to just get certain equipment for your YouTube? Are you saving up for a house already? What are you saving up for university? Are you just, what's one of your major financial goals right now, if you have one, if you don't mind us asking?
Definitely putting stuff into my bank account and just saving up for my future. But I do spend when I want to. And
is there any major thing in your future that you're thinking of, though?
University, mostly, probably right now.
And do you know what you want to take when you go to university?
I'm going to probably do an undergrad in science, then go for my graduation in engineering.
Okay, that makes sense based on your videos. What do you think, if you could only spend money on one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be and why? You can only spend it on one thing forever.
Food and water?
No. So you can have basic meals. You can have regular meals. They'll be okay, nothing special. So if you're a super foodie and you want to spend it on food, then you can choose food, but you're going to be fed. Assume that you're going to be fed regular, average quality meals. And then you can spend it on other stuff if you want, or you can spend it on fancy food.
That's a hard one, but probably shelter.
You're getting the basic necessities. You got the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So you're getting a nicer shelter than the average one that you have?
Yeah.
Okay. So you would just get a nicer place to live.
Yeah.
Stacy, what about you? You've got Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You're fed average. You're housed average. Do you want guitars? Do you want...
No, I just want good quality wine all day, every day.
Good quality wine?
Yes.
You can make that from scratch.
No, that's not quality wine.
Nolan, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the call.